shall we start? If you're on, if I can invite you to go on mute, that just saves me getting a bit of feedback sometimes through the headphones. If you go on mute, that saves me. Thank you, and then we can invite people to chat when useful. Great. So thanks very much for joining today. For those who have been on before, I'm PJ. You know, it's the Leadership Lab. We meet Wednesdays for a conversation, and the notion of this sort of the lunchtime meeting was really to just check in with the importance of leading business change, the importance of change, and leaders' role and the leadership role in that. How can we better deliver change? And with a lot of the accent on leadership and leadership behaviours. And there's a dozen or so topics that which we'll be talking about. We're about halfway through, we're just under halfway through, I think. And last time we got together, we were talking about cognition, this piece around connecting people with ideas, gathering information, making sense of that information, being more efficient and effective with it. Because there's so much knowledge and information out there. People are brilliant. And one of our roles as leaders is to tap into that for good. And so that was last week, and really thinking about opening that up now for the next couple of weeks. And within that space of cognition is, how are we going to access that information that exists in people? And one of the answers, not the only answer, I'm not trying to turn everybody into coaches, but is to have coaching conversations and to make that shift between leader as expert, I know everything, I'm going to tell you what to do, to leader as coach. How can we enable you to do what you do even better? And as leader, how can I access some of that potential that you have for the business, for the benefit of the business and for the team, but also how can I develop you? How can I elevate your thinking, feelings and behaviors so we create an even better place to work, a better culture, we're more successful together? And as I say, we access more of that knowledge, creativity, intelligence, ambition that exists in the team, make sense of it and get some value of it. So it would be interesting for me, and if we'll just go through, but if anybody wants to pop off, come off mute and actually just talk to us for a minute. But the question there really is, what is coaching and what is it not? And I realize that's not great English. But Raoul, I don't know, you know, as business owner and leader, if you want to pop on, but what is coaching and what isn't it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, to me, coaching is trying to get the best out of people, delivering a message to try to elevate their skill sets without, and with not coaching, I guess, is telling them how to do it as opposed to encouraging them to perform in a different way. I'm not sure if that's right, but that's how I would see it. Yeah.
Great, Ralph, thanks. Anyone else got a view of that? What is coaching, what isn't it? Neil, away you go, sir. Neil, you're on mute. If you want to pop off mute.
I do apologise. I was waving at somebody walking past, not to.
Well, now you have
give
to
me
answer
2
the
seconds.
question. No. Right, what is coaching? What isn't it? No, you can't get away with it.
Oh, okay. Can you give me 2 minutes? I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, no worries. All right. So coaching, you know, what is coaching? We'll talk about that in a minute. You know, I think Raoul's point, elevating people's thinking behaviours, trying to get them to do what they do even better, getting them to come up with the answer. Because if not, if we're always telling people what to do, and coaching is not telling, if we're telling people what to do all the time, they're going to come to us for the answers. And that's going to get very tiresome for us. It's going to clog up our diaries. But also it means that we're going to get very narrow band of thinking. You know, if it's just our, and there was a chap actually I worked with in Switzerland a couple of years ago. I flew out, or he paid for me to fly out to run a session for him just a couple of hours on a Thursday morning. I remember it well because at lunchtime I got a train to go down to see my friend in a ski resort and ski for the weekend. But, you know, in the morning, I flew all the way out and he said, and I paid Peter to come out, I've flown him to come out to help us get some really great ideas, you know, from my team. And by the way, I think the answer is X. I'll leave you for 3 hours and I'll be back at lunchtime. And the team went, there you go. He's already, you know, so he's telling them what to do and he's not getting the best from these 12 people that he was, you know, he'd employed. And anyway, when we came up with a different answer at lunchtime, he fired me immediately for not coming up with the answer that he'd already given them, which was fabulous. So there's, you know, what coaching, what isn't coaching. And one of the things around that is this relational shift between leader as expert moving to leader as coach, because often we've perhaps been employed, or we've been promoted. You know, is it possible to somebody pop on mute? Thanks. If we've been promoted because we've been good at something, we've been expert, we've been successful, we've been the ones that perhaps have delivered the result. And therefore it can be quite difficult for some people to shift from it's all about me, or I'm the one delivering the success, to it's about me helping our team or the team to deliver even better. So in essence, the team can be successful without me. And a guy that both Dr. Michael McGrath and I know quite well. I mean, he made a living for 30 years at Lloyds Bank out of really just developing his team, and he's recently retired. But he'll tell you his team was successful, or he was successful not because he was expert, but because he just tried to create an environment where his several hundred people in tech were successful. But he can barely, I'm teasing a bit, but Rick can barely turn a laptop on. But that's not his job. How can I support and coach the team? So during the course of these sessions, we've had a chat about EXACT, which is our 5-step process to help you move from here to there more efficiently and effectively, be more successful, tip the balance of success in your favor. And if we just look at where coaching fits in here, if step 1 is envision the future, so we know where we're going, what does that look like, what's our space in the future, there's going to be some coaching and conversations in that, because as leader we can't know all the answers. We're going to have to bring other people in. What will customers be doing? What will suppliers be doing? What will the market look like? What are some of the changes in governance, for example? What's going to be happening in the future? Okay, so if we know what that looks like, where are we starting from? Where are we today, honestly? And that will involve some coaching conversations so that we can understand the gap. Is it a big gap or a small gap? Is it a big journey or a small journey? We're going to find this easy or difficult? Those sorts of conversations. And then, as we've talked about 2 weeks ago, we moved into this space of attention. So if we know where we're going and we know where we're starting from, so we have our strategy, our plan, what are some of the things that are going to get in the way? What are some of the hurdles that might slow or derail us? And therefore, where do we need to pay attention to specifically in order to, tip the balance of success in our favor, to greatly increase the likelihood of us being successful, but also moving faster to value? Now, when we've got those 3 things mapped, step 4 in cognition, that's really diving into the knowledge and skills that people have and how we can connect those, is going to be the coaching piece, having those coaching conversations. Yes, I'm sure there'll be training and development, but coaching is going to be a big part of this. And being able to have coaching conversations, not as leader, assuming we have to know it all, assuming that we have the answers, but how can we have that honest and open conversation with people to develop them, to develop the team, the organization, and have a much broader impact, through our communities and our network. So that's the bit I'm just kind of talking into there, developing, supporting people so they can help the business deliver the strategy. And one thing I'm perhaps very fond of saying, and excuse me for repeating it if you've heard it in several other sessions, but if we just look at Pete Drucker's model, strategy, culture, and leadership, leaders have, as I've said many times, they have 2 jobs. Leaders, you have 2 roles. One, run the business, develop the strategy within that, governance, sales, finance. Yes, you are responsible. But your second role, and it's not second as in there's a first and second, it's just the other one, perhaps of equal importance, is that you have to behave in a way that creates a culture where people can flourish and therefore deliver the strategy. You will not deliver the strategy on your own, leaders. And therefore, having coaching conversations fits into that horizontal arrow at the bottom. How do leaders need to behave to create the culture? And if we want people to flourish, we need to be having good quality conversations with them, coaching conversations. I'm not trying to turn everybody into professional coaches. But that conversation, what do you think? How would you do it? Setting them up for the opportunity and creating that space where people can give their ideas. And then you start to connect those ideas. And we've said before, it's reckoned that something like 50 to 70% of knowledge, skill, and ideas in business remains untapped. It exists, but it remains untapped. Leaders, imagine if you could tap into that by having simple, better quality conversations. That would make a significant difference to performance and productivity, which right now our government would kill for. They're desperate for us to be more productive. They can't do it, we can. It's your business. You are the leaders. It's really down to you. This country is successful really based on your success. We know that. Better businesses, better communities. So I'm sorry to put that weight of expectation on you, but Raoul, you need to pay more tax. Don't flinch, Raoul, you know. So just a quick one, looking at this leadership spectrum. I'm not saying coach all the time, but know when to coach. Have the awareness of when to coach and when not to. If the building is on fire, be specific, be definite. Order me out the building. You can prescribe how we're going to do it, you know, in crocodiles, you know, like they did at school, in pairs, holding hands. You're going to leave the building carefully. Inform where you're going to meet. Outside in the car park, by the bike sheds, wherever you're, you know, wherever the fire meeting point is. Okay, we're not going to coach. We're not going to stop and have a coaching call. Hey, how do you feel about this? Is it should we leave or should we stay? I don't know, but you're going to do that. But later on, you might coach. Could we have done that better? Agreed. The inform bit. If we just go to the middle part, inform. This is just what I just like to really develop the awareness of. If you go to inform, if you imagine that's a T shape, we go north and we reach inform. So if I work for Michael, and you know Michael informs me of an opportunity, hey, I've got a great opportunity in tech. I'm informing me there's an opportunity here or there's a challenge here. He informs me about that. He can either turn left to prescribe and start telling me what to do, or Michael might turn right and go, hey, Peter, what do you think? What do you think is the best way of doing this? What do you see as the opportunity in this? How would you? What could excite you? What would? Oh, wow, great. And now he's engaging me. If he's just going to tell me what to do all the time, hey, do you know what? Let's not bother with this stuff. Just tell me. And there are managers and leaders who do that. Perhaps they're not leaders, they're just managers. They tell. And then I had one guy some years ago, he was very, very interesting, actually entertaining. He basically said, I'm surrounded by idiots. They won't do as I tell them, and they don't come up with any ideas themselves. And you sort of smile, but you think, yeah, you've been telling people what to do. They don't bother thinking for themselves anymore. There's nothing in it for them. And you think they're idiots, but you employed them. You're leading them. So I put that firmly at your door. Don't wriggle away from this one. So, but it's just a spectrum just to have a look at. But if we can move towards the coaching piece, we start to unearth potential. And there's a wealth of potential that sits in business. And if we can access that for good, the difference can be significant. I'm a big advocate of people, and this connecting people with ideas bit. So move in there, get some ideas, and then as leader, help those ideas to grow and to flourish. Can I just stop from it? There's any questions on that, Raoul? I think you might have been taking a photo or having a look, but is there anything anybody needs? Any questions on that? Any thoughts? Hi, Neil.
Hiya. Yeah, I think this is really, really interesting. I've got two things sort of swirling around my head. The role of a coach with maybe an organization that you're responsible for, and the role of a coach that is probably, more broadly across whatever the organization or even the network or the sector that you're in. And I often ask myself, because you're always, as a coach, you're often, investing time in people, and you're using some of your valuable resource, which is your time and what have you. And I kind of just think I might sort of just, I just sort of feeding into the sort of general system and not necessarily reaping the benefits of that. Whereas if it was in my own organization, I can reap the benefits of it. So there's almost like that kind of return on investment, right? On something that's quite intangible. And yeah, that's the value of coaching in a kind of broader community or in a broader space. I'll leave it there, but that's sort of one of the things I'm sort of thinking. I love this team model, by the way. It's almost like a junction, right? There's an event, right, in your organization, and micro event, whatever you want to call it, and there's that choice: go left or go right. And it's a moment of truth for, I think, a good leader, because everyone's looking at you, just going, "What's she or he going to do when they come across, they come to that junction? Are they going to tell us what to do, or are they going to go, in the other direction?" But yeah, this is good tools. Thank you.
No, good point. Thank you. If we think about some of the value in coaching, or perhaps some of the costs in not coaching, is probably around your time. You know, if you're coaching people well and you're starting to develop them, then likelihood is it frees up time. The challenge is you've got to have time at the beginning in order to coach. Michael, do you want to come in on this one, please? Because I know you've got
so
a wealth of experience.
There's just a different perspective, I suppose, I wanted to sort of throw in here, which is, I think this question of, do I coach at all, really comes down to the confidence of the leader and the confidence the leader has in the team. Because, at least in my experience, coaching is all about extracting. You believe the person who's receiving the coaching has within them what's required. So it's not mentoring. I'm not teaching you how to fish. I'm doing something else. I believe you can fish. I'm taking that out of you and getting you to see that. And therefore, actually, it takes a very confident leader and a leader who's confident in the team to successfully coach, in my opinion, anyway, my experience. And actually, I think that's a really fundamental question to ask as a leader. And you look at your team, whether it's your direct team or your broader team, is, have I confidence in this team? And if I haven't, how did that happen? Okay, have you got a slide on this? Okay.
You're talking to it, Michael. You go. You go.
No,
I'm gonna
no,
have a
no.
cup of tea. No. But it's important because you're absolutely right. No, Michael, keep going, because that. And you talked about confidence. I was going to say just almost the other word of, I wonder. It's a question to the group. I wonder if some leaders fear coaching.
Well, while the group think about that, I mean, in my experience, the non-coaching leaders have one of two responses. Either they genuinely believe that they're bigger than the sum of the parts, and therefore there's no need to extract, I just need to direct. Or else they're in a position, which I think is not uncommon in Europe, not just the UK, which is, I've been successful, I have all the answers. So actually, let me just save time and tell people what needs to be done, which is good, except even if you had the perfect answer a year ago, it probably isn't the right answer anymore because the world keeps changing on us. And I think when you look at, and I can't think of a good example, PJ, but if you look at great British companies that have been very successful and now have been sold to whoever, because they were no longer the industry leader, what often happens is they simply were great at something. Dunlop tires, they were outstanding at producing tires. They knew how to source the rubber. They knew all of that. But something happened where they were no longer in tune with the world and they end up being acquired. And I think we see a lot of that. And so I think it's a real challenge for our business community, big and small.
Because I think of just on that one, I think of who's the chap who runs The Apprentice, the TV show? Can't think what his name
Alan
is.
Sugar?
Yeah, I got Alan Sugar. So I'm not sure he doesn't run the TV show, but Alan Sugar and Amstrad in the kind of was it 70s, 80s, 90s was going great guns.
Yeah.
Could Amstrad have been an Apple? And yet I think they ended up making satellite dishes for Sky and being sold was it about 2000? I think Sky bought what was left of them. I'm sure he has other businesses. I'm just talking about the tech piece. Michael, is that right? I can't remember.
Well, in terms of dates, yeah, kind of the 1980s, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, it was by global standards, a medium-sized company, UK-based, making PCs, as was Acorn Computer, right? Acorn Computer, no, but Acorn Computer makes more CPUs than anybody else. Every ARM machine is the result of Acorn Computer updating, re-understanding, re-engaging, reinventing. And that wasn't achieved by other companies. And so I think I think the lesson there quite simply is, no matter how good you are, the world will keep changing. You've got to find ways to change. And apart from having, infinitely deep pockets, the real differentiator is the people. So can you get more out of the people, make the people develop, but also get more, get their knowledge. Because, again, in my experience, I've worked with many companies where there's a problem and basically everybody knows what the problem is, but no one can say it. There's a prescribed reason why, whatever. The competition are all cheats, right? All these Chinese manufacturers, they're all cheating, and that's why we can't beat them. Okay, well, that will become a true thing if that's what you believe. But if you say to yourself, well, why are we being beaten? And again, a great example. I mean, it's Sheffield was the world's center for steel manufacturing and for knives and cutlery and all that. And you go back to Michael Porter, they had an incredible advantage. Yet over time that was lost. Same with shipbuilding, there's great manufacturing examples. And it comes down to those industries haven't gone away. It comes down to the zeitgeist. Things have moved. Can you keep moving with them? And if you don't take the knowledge within your organization and use it, I think there's no chance of being successful in the long term.
Michael, thank you. And just to almost go back to where Michael starts about that sort of confidence piece, or the belief, what is your belief in other people? And here's Sir John Whitmore, his model, which we'll have a quick look at in a moment, the GROW model. I sort of remember Sir John Whitmore from being one of the last British guys to race a Ford GT40 at Le Mans back in the 60s. I had the pleasure of meeting him many kind of moons ago, so I knew him from that. And then he had this model called the GROW model. So I'm going to say it's been around 40 years, but I can't remember 40. And it's such a simple model, but I suppose his expectation or his belief is that the expression there, to get the best out of somebody is that hidden potential piece. We have to believe it's there. We have to believe in the human potential to kind of coach it out. If I believe I'm best, if I believe I have the answers, I'm leader, then perhaps coaching isn't going to come naturally to you. But if we believe that people can be even better, that they have these resources, they have knowledge which we could access and better connect for good, then I think coaching is a great opportunity, not just to develop people, but to say, but as Michael was saying, or to access that potential. That's Sir John Whitmore. You can look him up. I've stolen it. Absolutely, coaching is unlocking people's potential to maximize their own performance. I would add on to that for good. For the good of the individual, for the team, for the company, and for the community or network that we exist in. Here's his model. Really simple. It's amazing, isn't it? 4 letters, GROW. I noticed that recently people have extended it by 1 letter. When I was working at Barclays, we used this, but we extended it to put a T in front. Very clever. We put topic first. So what topic are we talking about? And then what's the goal and so on within that. But what it's really simple, isn't it? What's the goal here? What's the thing we're trying to get to? Where are we starting from? And you'll notice that some of this is reflected in exact. Where are we trying to get to? Okay, so where are we starting from? Great. What options have you got? And this is the coaching bit. What options? What could you do? And trying to get a number of options out. And when I coach groups, quite often I'll ask for not just your options, but I'll ask for 200 or 300 options. I'm not trying to be difficult. I want to get lots out, because people often try and just pick one good one, or one they don't think they'll be embarrassed about. But let's get dozens, because then when you get some of the silly, the fun ones or the silly ones out, then you can really start getting to the good stuff and start connecting. And then find, of course, what will you do, and not just what will you do as in the action, but how much will, and it's worth checking, how much will, motivational desire have you got to do it. So if you talk about smoking, for example, not a good one. I hope I don't remember, perhaps not a good one, but let's talk about smoking. Someone said the goal is to give up smoking. The reality is, I know it's not good for me. I smoke too much. I have some options. I can use patches, or I can just quit, or whatever the other options are. And then when they come to what will you do? Well, I'm going to quit. But if you ask them 0 to 10, what's your level of will? They might say 7 out of 10, in which case it's probably not going to happen. The desire's not there. The will probably wants to be 8.5 plus. I don't know if there's any psychologists on the call, but it probably wants to be 8.5 plus. But it's worth thinking, just talking that through with people. What's the goal? So I could look at it and I could say, if I'm having a conversation with a chum, doesn't necessarily have to be a great leader, but I could say, hey, listen, my boss Raoul, is a pain. Can't get awful leader, and our relationship's poor. But if I'm having a coaching conversation and my chum Michael says, what's the goal here? Actually, I want a better relationship with Raoul. Why is that important? Because we're working on a great project. The guy's really bright. I want to connect with him. I want to learn. I want to grow. Okay, so the reality here is it's a really good relationship that you want to improve. There's a great opportunity. What are your options? Because moaning to me isn't going to build your relationship with Raoul. But well, I could send him an email. Great. I could get him a postcard. Okay. I could walk down the door and knock, tap on the door and say, can we have a chat? Great. So which one will you do? And how much will have you, you get the idea, yeah? And you're moving people, and that can take 2 or 3 minutes. People can moan, about something for weeks, months, years. We've had people, we go and talk to them about business, and they'll say, well, 5 years ago when I joined and I didn't get X and I'm still moaning about it. You've wasted all that time. And you can move people, you can help people get unstuck very quickly with that simple model. And just to underline, some of you will have seen this before, but if you look at the Oxygen report on the right-hand side about, they're really looking at behaviors of great managers or better managers. Number one is be a good coach. Be interested in other people, be productive, be a good communicator. Number 6, help employees be interested in their career development. It doesn't talk about doing the job as such. It doesn't talk about being technical expert till number 8. Number 1, be a good coach. And we know this makes sense, but making the shift in business may not be easy. Raoul, I was just going to ask you, because you're I think you're in an interesting position, owner of an SME of 2 or 3 dozen people. How does that fit with you? Do you think your role now, I'm perhaps putting you on the spot, but how does that fit with you in developing your business?
No, it's actually really valid, because I am in the phase of exiting the operational part of the business. So I'm now, I don't even know what the numbers are this month. That's a situation I've never been in, because I now have co-managing directors who are running the business, and I would have said mentored, actually, and I've written that down. I don't think it is mentoring. I think it is coaching, but I would have called it mentoring before that. But to try to get that level up so they can handle the business. Now, it's a scary thing to be in the position where you're not in control of everything, because anyone who runs a business is a slight megalomaniac, and I mean, they want to know everything about everything, and we all think we can do it better than anybody else. But the reality is, and I think Michael said, you can't, because when I started the business, it was 30 years ago, and what I knew then, and I'm not connected to the customer as I was. We are not. The company's evolved, the market's evolved, the business has evolved. So without new blood coming through, without helping them to understand the business, you're dead. And I think if I'd have been hanging on for another 10 years, the business would have declined and gone into a point where you sell it, or it just sort of withers and dies. So I totally agree with this, PJ. I probably wouldn't have expressed it in obviously how you have, and I wouldn't have known perhaps I'd be doing it, but it's absolutely vital. It's difficult when you've been doing it for so long. You instinctively know the answers before someone's even asked the question, and then you just want to tell them. I think Michael said again, you could just shortcut so much time, but actually having that, no, I'm going to let them go through the process of finding out, because that's how I did at some point. Otherwise, I'd never learn. So, but it's a scary position to be in, because you've got 50 people's jobs on the line, they cock it up. So, yes, good timing for this one, PJ.
Thank you. No, it is, right, one has to be respectful. You do have the livelihoods and mortgages and so on, careers of a couple of dozen people, in the business, and maybe that's even more reason to coach, to allow them to grow, because whether they stay with you or not, it's yours is an important business in the community, not just for you, but for all those people who are rely on it, not just the customers and who benefit from the product. So there we go. There's just a couple of models to have a look at, and then if we just really just close on that one, just to say, look, we're thinking about coaching within the overall process and coaching conversations, and then more specifically around developing other people. That's in the cognition, step 4. But next week, and we know about teams and teamwork, but next week will be about teams. So, and of course, we'll overlap, because we're talking about coaching individuals, but also coaching teams, and coaching throughout the organization. So how do we develop teams and teamwork? The importance of teams and teamwork. Undoubtedly, I will bring up COVID and thinking about, in COVID, perhaps we sent people home, we did the right thing for individuals, we did the right thing for the business, but what's happened to team since then? People that aren't getting together, are teams still relevant? Is team important? Or what's the equivalent? If it's not teamwork, then what are we calling it now? and how are we going to develop it for good. So that's me done. This perhaps a little bit of time for conversation. If you want to for a couple of minutes, I'm happy to stay on. I'm happy to close and let everybody go and do what they need to do. But any final questions or comments from anyone, then opportunity to share if you want to.
That's very useful, PJ. I think you've got some really good points there, and it is. I think that's part of the developing a business. It's not just about running it and being the head of the the entrepreneurial driving it. It's actually developing your people, because in the end they're the future. If you don't do that, you have a stagnating business, and sadly, I think a lot of British businesses do stagnate and get bought up and sort of absorbed. We don't seem to have that German model where they seem to stay in families for hundreds of years. I don't know what happened, why that is. There's a cultural difference, but I think you've got a better chance if we can give certainly people opportunity. They can take the opportunity, or they can't. But you've got to give them the opportunity, I think. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I love that word on opportunity. Michael, closing word from you, and then we'll.
Well, I
we'll
just think there's a lot of what Raoul has just said. I think it's the experience is we need to somehow respond to the world. I mean, the fact is, we're slowly falling down the global economy tables. There was a time, for a long time, we were number 4, right? And we were bigger than Germany. Now I think we're 6 or 8 or whatever. So something has to change for the better. And what I'll take away is just that model. I need to think about that, how that might change how I approach the coaching as a tool within the overall change program that we're working on at any given time. So some new insights there, PJ. So thanks very much.
Thanks, great. In that case, let's say goodbye. God bless, farewell, bon chance, and all that's been great. Thank you so much. Hope some of you can make it again next week. It's been, I really enjoy it. I love the conversations, but thank you so much. And I wish everybody a very, very good afternoon. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
A bientôt.